Good morning, everyone. Mike's MMA Picks here with your Fight Morning quick card breakdown show for UFC London. This show is brought to you by MMA Oddsbreaker as well as BetDSI. We've got 14 fights, so lots of opportunities here to make some dough. And 10 of these fights are currently favored to end inside the distance. Interesting fight card where I think there'll be a number of finishes here. Should have a electric crowd inside of the O2 Arena. Fantastic card. Early start as well, 12 o'clock. So stay ready. Let's get things kicked off with the welterweight fight to start the night. Nicholas Dalby, who has been a grizzled veteran for the UFC throughout the years, taking on another fighter who hasn't been very active throughout the years, Claudio Silva, very talented fighter, hailing now out of London. And Claudio Silva, he has been a fighter who has a dangerous ground game. I'll tell you what, the Nordine Taleb fight back in 2018 was a fight that told me all I needed to know about Claudio Silva. He's dangerous early in many of his fights. The technique may not be there, but he finds a way. Some fighters, it ain't pretty sometimes, but they're able to find a way. Also has a very dangerous ground game, does Claudio Silva. Now, Nicholas Dalby came up short last time out against Tim Means, is a fighter who will typically fight hard for your money. I know his latest Instagram postings have maybe we've questioned the motivation to some degree, but once fighters are locked inside the octagon, I think we'll see most of the time they perform for us, correct? So Nicholas Dalby, I think that this is going to be a situation where he's going to have to avoid the ground game of Claudio Silva early, and the longer this fight goes, as this fight gets extended, Nicholas Dalby should pull away here. And my question is, though, is Claudio Silva going to have enough gas to get across this finish line after 3 rounds, after 15 minutes? Dalby could potentially end up winning this fight via strikes, stoppage. This fight is expected to go to a decision at -125. I'll be picking Nicholas Dalby for the victory, though be aware that Claudio Silva is live for an early submission. Second fight of the night, where we have 125 pounds, ladies, women's mixed martial arts. Again, it seems like card after card, we have these extremely low-level women's mixed martial arts fights that sometimes all it takes is wanting it more, being aggressive, and just getting after it. You look at Victoria Leonardo last time out against Melissa Gatto. She ended up breaking her arm, was consistently moving forward in that fight, took a lot of damage. It pains me to say this, but she may be one of the lowest level fighters on the UFC roster. Though look at who she's facing here. Mandy Bohm, who's coming in with a 7-1 record, someone who arrived onto the scene with an unblemished, undefeated, shiny record, and ended up taking a loss, a dominant loss, at the hands of Ariane Lipski, where she was out-grappled, outstruck, and just frankly looked like garbage. So in this spot, you're also looking at the age of these fighters. Somehow, both of these fighters, 32 years of age, competing at the highest level. Can we find some legitimate fighters here to compete inside of the octagon? I don't understand why we're wasting time matching these two ladies up against one another when we could have so many talented fighters waiting in the wings to compete. So it's disturbing. I think this is going to come down to Victoria-Leonardo wanting it more and just being the more active fighter. Mandy Bohm, she's tall. She's, not much to say about her. She doesn't throw for power. There are some submission victories on her resume, but look at the strength of schedule. I just don't see it. I'm going to be leaning and picking the underdog here, Victoria-Leonardo, though. Come on. There has to be a better solution to this than putting these ladies on this fight card. Sorry, I have to say it. Next up, let's continue this journey where we have a lightweight matchup between Jai Herbert against Kyle Nelson. Kyle Nelson coming in as a plus 225 underdog. I shared a quote from Kyle Nelson that was done in an interview with James Lynch recently, where he said, "I think my striking, especially technically, is a little bit better than Ilya Topuria. And then I still carry that power. I've been carrying a lot of power for a long time. And now that I'm at 155 pounds, I think it's going to show through even more." The self-belief is there on behalf of Kyle Nelson. We've heard it before. Prior to the Billy Q fight, he mentioned that his measurables at the UFC PI were elite and comparable to the elite of the featherweight division. Does that translate to a victory here inside the octagon? Probably not. Jai Herbert has many tools at his disposal to cause Kyle Nelson fits. Kyle Nelson is typically stiff as a board on the feet. Kyle Nelson does not move his head. He is powerful. I'll give him that. Every punch he throws, he goes for it. We've seen against Matt Sales and other fighters, he hits a brick wall. I know that was down at 145 pounds, but even the short notice fight against Diego Ferreira, this is a guy who will throw the kitchen sink at you and then hit a wall. Jai Herbert, he's fluid. He's got a massive reach advantage here. Technically, he could pump out his strikes, pump out that jab, and cause Kyle Nelson fits. Now, if this fight ends up in a phone booth, do I think Jai Herbert is susceptible to getting cracked? Yes. Do I think that there's a possibility that Jai Herbert gets iced in this spot? Yes. He's got some glaring chinks in the armor here that it's hard to deny. The Trinaldo loss, the Moicano loss, and then the Topuria loss, all horrific looks when it comes down to taking damage. So dangerous spot for Jai Herbert, though he's got to mind his P's and Q's inside of the larger octagon here, and this is definitely a winnable fight for him. But do I think somebody's going to get caught and dropped? Yes, I think that Kyle Nelson's likely going to end up being stopped here at some point. But it wouldn't surprise me to see Jai Herbert get knocked out. So I'll be picking Jai Herbert to win. And this fight, at one point, fight doesn't go the distance, was in the low minus 200s. Now it's ballooned up to minus 300. I don't see this one going all 15 minutes, but give me Jai Herbert in that spot. We've got a number of comments in the section. Here we go. We've got Joe, hell of a card. Okay, yes. Nazir, yes, get ready. 12 o'clock p.m. Start on the East Coast here on Long Island. Next up, we have Joe McKenna. Yep, you are correct. So let's continue this journey, my friends. Muhammad Mokaev taking on Charles Johnson. This line has widened throughout the week. Mokaev coming in as a minus 510 betting favorite. It's almost as if people are unaware of Charles Johnson. Charles Johnson, LFA fighter who has recently gone 5 rounds and he's fought some legit competition, was in there against Brandon Royval. He'll fight for your money. I'll say that. Scrappy fighter. One issue I think Johnson's going to run into is the grappling realm here. Mokaev, if this fight hits the mat, his ability to control Charles Johnson for at least the better part of a round and a half, possibly up to 2 rounds. I could see that happening. Mokaev riding Charles Johnson and floating on top of him. I think that is likely what will end up happening here. Now, the question is, Mokaev, he was wearing the sunglasses out there at weigh-ins. I'm always concerned when I see that because sometimes that's indicative of a very rough weight cut. And this kid's still only 21 years of age. So he still has some maturation to go through. I'll be picking Mokaev here. Charles Johnson it would not surprise me to see him make this a fight and turn this into a scrappy affair. The longer this fight goes, I see Charles Johnson becoming more live, but I think Mokaev may potentially end this fight and do so inside the distance. And you're getting a decent line in the minus 130s on Fight Doesn't Go the Distance. I know it's a flyweight matchup, and Johnson is typically hard to finish, but there seems to be a discrepancy in the grappling ability here. So give me Mokaev to win. Wow. All right. Mr. Finland is back overseas taking on Jonathan Pearce, JSP. This is a great fight. Amirkhani, we know that Anaconda choke is always live to be applied. Jonathan Pearce coming in as a minus 175 betting favorite. This line has closed throughout the week. I think if you are playing this fight, you do so Amirkhani via submission. It was in the mid plus 300s for a while. And then I also see after that first round, we know Jonathan Pearce has weaponized cardio, no doubt about that. And, a concern of mine, Jonathan Pearce has come out in interviews and said that he believes that Amirkhani is not going to be able to lock up that choke on him. I think he could. I think Amirkhani is live. I think that Jonathan Pearce is actually underestimating the grappling ability, especially the wrestling ability of Amirkhani. Amirkhani, the Arnold Allen fight, there have been many others through the years. I followed Makwan Amirkhani's his career very closely. Shane Burgos, he was doing fairly well in that fight early and tends to run out of gas. That's really what it comes down to. So I think Makwan has about a round and a half in him, and then Jonathan Pearce should really turn the tide here and pour it on and potentially finish Amirkhani late. But give me Makwan Amirkhani to win this fight and do so early. It's one of those situations. I've stayed away from this fight from a betting perspective so far, but I see Amirkhani by submission just sticking out there. The thing that gets me is that there's a real glaring hole in Amirkhani's gas tank, and we know he tends to be locked in overseas. Also, when he comes over to the U.S., I think he fought at MSG against Burgos. Had about a round in him, but that was it. Jonathan Pearce, though, scrappy kid. Do I rate his grappling very highly? No, I don't. I think that his weaponized cardio is what brought him to this level. We've seen him ragdolled by Joe Lozon. He ended up needing shoulder surgery in that spot and was completely dominated. So I think Pearce is underestimating Amirkhani's grappling ability here, and Amirkhani comes away with the victory. Do I like the plus 160 price tag? I was hoping for a little bit better price tag than that. Plus 145 now. The line's closing a little bit. But give me Amirkhani for the win. Let's see. Okay, let's see. Live betting JSP after round 1. Yes, that is the thing here. That is something I think you watch this fight, and if it gets past the first round, play Pearce. I think that's the way to go here. Amirkhani is live to lock up a submission. Next up, we have Natty Wood. Nathaniel Wood coming in as a minus 605 betting favorite. You heard that correctly. Minus 605, taking out Charles Rosa, who's coming in at plus 405. We've seen Charles Rosa out-grappled in many of his fights. Nathaniel Wood, he's moving up a division here, and he did not look big on the scales, which we knew was going to happen, but he seems undersized for this division here. I will be interested to see how much he's hydrated against Charles Rosa. Charles Rosa does not pose much of a power threat. He does have opportunistic submissions, as we've seen in the past. Nathaniel Wood, the question I have is he going to be able to finish this fight and take Charles Rosa out of there? I think that there is a chance that he does so via finish. You look at this fight, and fight goes to a decision sitting at minus 180. I understand folks are banking on the durability of Charles Rosa here, but Nathaniel Wood has been sitting on the sidelines for quite some time. He has been chomping at the bit to compete. He had the Vince Morales fight that fell through, and now he's in front of his hometown crowd. I'll be picking Nathaniel Wood, and check out those inside the distance numbers on Nathaniel Wood. He should be able to have a little bit better gas tank here up a weight division, and he may be able to pack a little bit extra power up a division here against Charles Rosa. We haven't seen him up at 145 pounds. I'll be picking Nathaniel Wood, and I believe he gets this done inside the distance and stops Charles Rosa. Do not be surprised if you see Charles Rosa ending up getting split open by a cut here. I think that he's going to eat some damage. And the Casey Kenny fight, hey, we were on Casey Kenny in that fight, but there was a serious sweat going on. And by the way, Casey Kenny, I hope he ends up landing a fight against Frankie Edgar, somebody from the MMA lab. I hope that they end up taking on Frankie Edgar, and we wish Frankie Edgar well in retirement. Next up, we've got Damir Hadzovic taking on Mark Diakiese, the Bosnian bomber, plus 305. By the way, Hadzovic, his physique has changed significantly throughout his career. Interesting. Now that he's getting up there in age, in his mid-30s, does pose a power threat. Has a win over Yancy Medeiros coming in now. We saw Medeiros have success, right? Bellator recently. Mark Diakiese, this is a spot where he is the more versatile fighter. I'll say that. But Diakiese isn't a world beater here, and we've seen in the past. I faded Diakiese with Nasrat Haqparast, and Haqparast ended up coming through there. Also, Drakkar Klose was able to put it on Mark Diakiese. We've seen in the past he's folded and he's been beaten. Do I think that's going to happen here? Not very likely, but I wouldn't be emptying the vault on Mark Diakiese. Diakiese has a grappling edge here. Is he going to go to it? Possibly. Has he fought and executed great game plans in the past? Yes, he's coming. Well, he's coming off of a situation where he did, but I don't put a tremendous amount of faith in Mark Diakiese. The issue is you look at the other side of the fight, and Damir, it looks like the wheels are starting to fall off here, despite the fact that he's coming off of a victory. The end of the road can be seen. I'll be picking Diakiese. Is he going to finish the fight? That is to be determined. Fight doesn't go the distance is sitting at -120 right now. Can he pour it on and finish Demir late? Possibly. I think that the potential for a finish on the ground is more likely than on the feet. I do think this fight ends up going the distance, but I'll be picking Diakiese, and he just has to stick to his game plan and mix in the wrestling. Keep Demir thinking. Frustrate Demir. We've seen Demir can get frustrated in the past. So the pick there is Mark Diakiese. Next up, we've got Ludovic Klein taking on Mason Jones. Now, this is a fight that I have been chomping at the bit for, a fight I've been really looking forward to. Mason Jones, I've mentioned him in the previous MMA betting seminar videos that I've done on my own personal YouTube channel. And one of the reasons I've mentioned his name is because he's somebody who will fight for your money. He's somebody who you can trust will go out there and perform to the best of his abilities, win or lose. Somebody who's had a granite chin, but can get cracked. And Ludovic Klein is coming up to 155 pounds. Somebody who Devontae Smith, he had a victory over Devontae Smith last time out. Ludovic Klein is a fighter who has these head kicks that you have to worry about. They fly up at your head in a instant, and he's dangerous. I'll say that he is dangerous, but he doesn't tend to throw combinations together, and he does not fare well when pressured. We've seen Ludovic Klein. I've posted earlier in the week a video of Nate Landwehr pressuring Ludovic Klein, and that was his kryptonite. That caused him big problems. We were actually on Ludovic Klein in that spot, and it was an eye-opener. Now he's moving up a weight class against Mason Jones, who can fight at 170 pounds, somebody who's been waiting to get on this UFC London card. Somebody who has pace, who has pressure, who has volume, who has durability. Klein, if he doesn't land the knockout blow, then he could potentially be in big trouble in this spot. Ludovic Klein is somebody who can gas in the larger octagon in front of the boisterous London crowd. I think that we're going to see Mason Jones come out here and really put it on Ludovic Klein. Klein does not have the best footwork, and Mason Jones should be able to track him down and eventually cause him fits. Do I see Mason Jones coming out here and breaking Ludovic Klein? I do. I think that Mason Jones has the ability to win this fight via TKO, and also it would not shock me to see Ludovic Klein end up succumbing to a submission here. The Trezano fight was another bout where, how often do you see Mike Trezano putting people in very difficult positions and breaking them down? Ludovic Klein, talented fighter. Technically, it's pretty to watch. Also, another thing about Ludovic Klein, he has put in some training camps at some of the best camps in the world. At Sanford MMA, this is a guy who was dedicated, was down in Florida, and he came up short and was basically run through by Nate Landwehr. So Mason Jones is a much better fighter than Nate Landwehr, bigger, stronger, more technical, more dangerous, fighting out of Team Alpha Male, has 13 weeks in the hopper here as far as a training camp goes. He knew that this opportunity was coming. So I'll be picking Mason Jones, and I like the number at -300. Don't typically play juice like that, but I like that number, and I see him winning this fight inside the distance. I think the submission line's absurd. It was hovering around plus 750 or so. So I see him winning this fight via, it's pick your poison. It could be a submission. It could be a TKO. But either way, I see Mason Jones finishing Ludovic Klein. Sorry to be long-winded, but one of my favorite fights on the card. Looking forward to that one. Next up, where we have Paul Craig taking on Volkan-Oezdemir. Volkan-Oezdemir coming in as a minus 150 betting favorite. Paul Craig riding a 5-fight winning streak. And he has that bear trap of a submission. He will lock it up on you, the triangle. You make one mistake and you pay for it. You'll be tapping or you'll have your arm broken. Big fan of Paul Craig. Nikita Krylov had one job: stay away from that submission threat, and he couldn't do it. Do I think Volkan-Oezdemir is going to be able to stay away from that submission threat? I don't know, man. I don't trust Volkan-Oezdemir's fight IQ inside of the octagon. He's made some bonehead mistakes in the past. I think that he is going to end up doing it again here and making a mistake. He's going to come out fluid, trying to stay evasive. Craig should try to close the distance, and like we saw last time out against Krylov, within the opening bell, within 1-2 seconds, these two were tangled up and they were headed to the mat. Paul Craig will likely try to do the same thing. Face-offs showed us that the intensity is still there. The self-belief is there. And Paul Craig is a dangerous fighter. I don't see this fight going the distance. And I see Paul Craig ending up being in a precarious situation again and then catching Volkan-Oezdemir. It's interesting that we're this far into the game and people are going out of their way to heavily invest in Volkan-Oezdemir. This is a dangerous spot. This is a very dangerous spot. And I'll be picking Paul Craig, but it would not surprise me. I think this is closer to a situation where this is an evens fight. Volkan-Oezdemir, light years ahead of Paul Craig on the feet in the striking realm. We're aware of that. Everyone's aware of that. But it just takes one mistake for Paul Craig to capitalize on it. And as we saw against Magomed Ankalaev, who I consider the best light heavyweight fighter on the planet, and we've seen Paul Craig do this to a number of fighters in the past. So I'll be picking Paul Craig here via submission, but it would not shock me to see Oezdemir put Craig's lights out. And if he does fight to a disciplined game plan, then Oezdemir could look like a minus 400 favorite. No doubt. But that thing is, it just takes one mistake for Craig to lock something up, and then that ticket cashes. So, or if you're on the Oezdemir side, that ticket burns up in flames. So give me Paul Craig, and to do so via submission. All right, let's look at this. Daniel Edwards says, "Why do we do this, Mike?" Right? Well, what I say is invest in your passion and develop a winning process. That's key number one. I get Volkan is losing to good guys, but I don't know how he's the favorite here. Interesting. Yes, Craig's chin is suspect, and Volkan does have power. We understand why he's the favorite. As long as he doesn't follow him to the ground, he should. But here's the thing, folks, no one enters a fight saying, "Oh, I'm going to go to the ground with Paul Craig and test my skills against them." It just happens. You're in a fist fight, and his adrenaline. A lot of folks, the adrenaline gets the best of them, and then they end up one mistake, and it's all over. So, long-winded response here, but Paul Craig's dangerous. Next up, where we have Molly McCann taking on Hannah Goldy. Hannah Goldy coming in as a plus 325 underdog. And man, Hannah Goldy, not much to write home about here. She's got her kicking game. I think that her ground game is dangerous? Not necessarily. She seems undersized for the division. She carries a lot of muscle. And the Granger fight, I've followed her career closely. Not very impressed. She's taking on Molly McCann, who I believe McCann had left her gloves in the octagon at one point. McCann, who's been revitalized coming off of a impressive knockout victory. Very rarely do we see that in women's MMA. McCann, do I go out of my way to play her at minus 445? No way in hell. Especially women's mixed martial arts. We've known that there's some volatility there. Do I think McCann is the rightful favorite and will walk away with a victory in this spot? Yes. The keys to victory here are volume, pace, and pressure of McCann. She can wear damage. She can go deep into fights. I thought McCann was toast last time out when she ended up looking like she was gassing herself out. She was throwing the kitchen sink at her opponent. And we know now McCann can sustain that volume for the better part of a fight. And I'll be picking McCann to win. I don't necessarily see her getting a finish here. Fight goes to a decision, is sitting at minus 225 or minus 215-ish at some books. Give me McCann to win, but I would not go out of my way to be parlaying McCann, especially at a minus 400 plus number. Same goes for Mokaev. Not a fan of parlaying pieces that are that wide. Let's see what we got in the comments section here. Okay. Good morning, Donnie. All right. Nikita Krylov taking on Alexander Gustafsson. Gustafsson coming in as a plus 180 underdog, 35 years of age. It's interesting. On my timeline, I'm seeing folks come out of the woodwork to back Alexander Gustafsson. And this is a guy who has shown you who he is multiple times in recent years. Left the sport after he shared that he didn't have the desire to compete. And, he's back. He's taking on Nikita Krylov, who doesn't instill a lot of confidence when you go back and watch the tape and the game plans that he's fought in previous matchups against the former champion Jan, against Glover. There have been other fights where Krylov will make some bonehead decisions. Hey, how about the Paul Craig fight? That was another recent fight where he got caught. Krylov, his physique has changed over the past few years. The Johnny Walker fight, that was a fight that I liked how he fought that fight. Granted, I was on the fight doesn't go the distance in that matchup, but Krylov took the fight to the mat, was mounted by Johnny Walker at times, but he ended up pulling through there. And Krylov, what I'm trying to say is sometimes he can be difficult to trust as well. So Alexander Gustafsson plus 180. The number seems pretty good, I got to say. Am I going to be playing it? No, because I don't trust Alexander Gustafsson. I think that he has shown us that he doesn't want to be here. The fight against Verdum lasted a couple of minutes, and I don't know what that was, man. He is now back at 205. He made weight. So I watched the weigh-ins to see what transpired. If he came in at 209 or something like that, then I might have gone out of my way to play Krylov. But he made weight, and the range fighting, if he could keep this on the feet, it's a very competitive fight. If this fight hits the mat, Krylov has the ability to control Gustafsson on the mat. I'll be picking Nikita Krylov in this spot. Yeah, look at this. I have a comment here. Gus could definitely be in the same position as Cowboy and Miesha Tate. Hard to trust until he shows us he's really back. And that's the key here. I think a lot of folks out there who are in the MMA handicapping world, they don't pass on plays. And this is a spot where when Gustafsson's on, the beginning of the Anthony Smith fight, he actually looked solid and then folded under the pressure late. There's no shame in staying away in this specific instance. I need to see Alexander Gustafsson show us that he's back. And if he does, then we'll get a different line next time out, right? But if he's not back and Krylov rolls through him, then you're burning money. So I'll be picking Krylov in this spot. I wouldn't play him at minus 220. If Gustafsson showed up at 209 on the scale, then I would go to the well with Krylov. And if I saw what I needed to see. But Gustafsson came in shape. I don't know what I'm getting here. Looked like he put in a solid training camp and could be a competitive fight. And Gustafsson could win this fight if it ends up just being on the feet for 15 minutes. But give me Krylov here. And it's interesting. There are so many question marks about this fight. I'm hesitant to explain how this fight actually ends because there's a multitude of ways. If we're being honest with ourselves, there's a multitude of ways this fight ends. So Krylov could potentially come in here and finish Gustafsson, who wants out. That is a realistic possibility. Gustafsson could stay at range and pick Krylov apart. That's also a realistic possibility. I could see Krylov subbing Gustafsson. Do I see Gustafsson knocking Krylov out? I could see that happening in the third round. That would not surprise me because Krylov has a tendency to fade late. Comes out very hot in many of his fights. But Krylov said he's been training in the mountains for this camp, and we know he's still not that old. He's still, I believe, 30. I'll be picking Krylov here. He is a talented fighter. Nikita Krylov is a very talented fighter. So give me Krylov there. Next up, where we have Paddy Pimblett taking on Jordan Leavitt. Jordan Leavitt coming in as a plus 210 underdog. I understand why folks are tempted to play Jordan Leavitt. They are turned off by Paddy Pimblett's just his attitude, his what he's shown us in the cage also has been taken down in a couple of spots, has been cracked on the chin and dropped. Still only both of these fighters 27 years of age. Pimblett is the much larger fighter, is the stronger fighter, and also has a massive contingency of fans behind him, somebody who feeds off of the electricity of the atmosphere of the arena. And Paddy Pimblett, you look back at his previous matchups, places where he's faltered against Julian Erosa, Juicy J, one of my favorite fighters. Erosa, we need to get Julian Erosa back inside the octagon, by the way. He cashed a ticket on us against Peterson and Juicy J. You know, he looked great against Charles Jourdain, and he is a dangerous fighter, and he took care of Paddy Pimblett, but Paddy Pimblett ended up walking away with a decision there, right? So in this spot, I think there is home cooking here to be had. Jordan Leavitt is up against some massive adversity. He's walking into enemy territory. This is a setup fight that the UFC has put in front of him. He's coming in at minus 260, which is, in some people may view that as a very wide line. I see Pimblett as being a legitimate favorite in this spot, and he has a few ways to win here. Leavitt, I'll also say this: Jordan Leavitt, one of my favorite. Well, I'm not going to go out of my way and say he's one of my favorite fighters, but he's grown on me. He's a fighter who I picked to win against Trey Ogden. He is dangerous on the mat, doesn't pose much of a threat on the feet. He does that to set up his ground game and his opportunistic submissions. So Pimblett has to be careful here because if Pimblett closes the distance too quickly, we may see a reactive takedown from Jordan Leavitt, and then we could see Leavitt end up riding the round out on top. He's got solid top control, but when Leavitt's on his back, he lacks strength, both in the striking realm and on the mat. He's decent at flowing. When you watch him compete, the Wyman fight, I don't put a lot of stock into that. I don't think he's going to be KOing Paddy Pimblett. I'll be picking Paddy Pimblett here, and all signs are pointing in the direction of Pimblett walking away with the W here. There's just too much adversity that Leavitt is facing. He's the weaker fighter. I don't think Leavitt has the better gas tank here. I think that Paddy Pimblett has the better gas tank. Paddy Pimblett's the larger fighter. Can he get controlled on the mat? Sure. Do I think that that's going to happen for 15 minutes? No. So I'll be picking Paddy Pimblett. And if you got anything under minus 260, I think that would be a okay price. But I also like the inside the distance line on Pimblett. This fight isn't expected to go to a decision at minus 250. The energy of the crowd should come into play here, and we might see some funny reactions from both fighters during their entrances and when this fight does finish. So be aware of somebody potentially getting teabagged or get twerked upon. Just be aware that something controversial may happen after this fight ends. So give me Paddy Pimblett to win. We've got some comments in the comment section here. Okay, let's see. Someone is not a fan of Jordan striking. Yeah, he's striking is used more of a defensive tactic rather than anything else. I do not believe that Jordan Leavitt's striking is a threat. We've seen those leg kicks. How many leg kicks did he throw? I think he set a record for the most amount of leg kicks thrown last time out against Trey Ogden. Give me Paddy Pimblett there. Now, this is the people's main event for a lot of folks here. Jack Hermansson taking on Chris Curtis. Chris Curtis flying overseas on short notice. Less than a month removed from a win over Rodolfo Vieira, where he looked great. He didn't appear threatened at all in that bout. The takedown defense was up to snuff, and he just picked Rodolfo Vieira apart on the feet. Didn't feel threatened whatsoever. One of Sean Strickland's training partners, Sean Strickland, has victory over Jack Hermansson. Somehow, some way that ended up being a split decision, which was shocking to me. We were on Sean Strickland in that spot. Jack Hermansson was training for Darren Till here, put in a full camp. Hermansson's the longer fighter, the younger fighter, somebody who has shown us who he is against Marvin Vettori. Will show us grit, will bite down and go for it. But he was outclassed against Sean Strickland. That is, we can't deny that. And in this spot, it's interesting. If we see Hermansson end up in top position, if he grounds Chris Curtis, which I think he'll be able to do at some point during the fight, that's when Hermansson should show us that he should be the favorite here. And you look at the odds Hermansson minus 120 at the betting window. I liked him much better at plus money. Personally, I'm picking Jack Hermansson, and I believe that the hype for Chris Curtis is baked into this line. If this was Chris Curtis a fight or two ago, Hermansson would be more like a minus 180-ish, favorite in this spot. But we've seen Chris Curtis has proven over his last few fights that he's durable. He will come forward and he almost looks invincible out there. I'll be honest. Chris Curtis, the way he's fighting, he has not been hurt. Hermansson could come out here and use volume, use his range, and also end up in top position. So I'll be picking Jack Hermansson to win. And though I understand that Chris Curtis has been a money train for a lot of folks in the MMA betting world. Before we get to the main event, let's take a look at the comments here. How does Patty lose all that weight? I have no idea. That's one of the mysteries of this life, to be honest. Action man. Yeah, Chris Curtis, hey, he'll fight for your money. Let's see. Okay, he needs to implement. Okay, he needs to fight the same exact game plan. Okay, less concerned with the short notice. He stuffed a tremendous amount of takedowns in that fight. All right, main event of the evening here, where we have Curtis Blaydes versus Tom Aspinall. Tom Aspinall coming in as a minus 145 betting favorite. Somebody who is 29 years of age, somebody who is very dynamic. Taking a Curtis Blaydes who you want it all as a heavyweight. You wanted somebody who checks off all the boxes. You want somebody who is a dominant wrestler. You want somebody who has some dangerous striking, somebody who has a great gas tank, and somebody who has a great chin. But you also need somebody who has tremendous fight IQ. And what Curtis Blaydes has shown me in previous fights, what he's run into trouble with is when he transitions between his striking and his wrestling. When he makes that conscious decision to mix it up, it seems telegraphed at times. And Tom Aspinall is a very intelligent fighter who the jury still seems to be out on Tom Aspinall. It's not on Curtis Blaydes. We know Curtis Blaydes, he's fought enough times that we know if he's able to land the takedowns, he has some vicious ground and pound. Granted, some of his fights have ended up going long. Curtis Blaydes on the feet against Chris Daukaus, he ended up choosing to strike and kept it upright. Ended up winning, right? Curtis Blaydes against JDS, same thing. Very impressive in the striking realm. Tom Aspinall, I'll say this. He seems like he's electric out there. His striking is so fluid. It almost seems effortless for a big guy. The way he's able to navigate the terrain of the octagon is very impressive. Interesting fight. If Blaydes is able to land these takedowns, which I think he has to come out here in a grappling, with a grappling heavy game plan. If he decides to trade with Aspinall, I think Aspinall is going to be too quick and he's going to end up catching Blaydes. So Blaydes has to come out here and fight a dominant wrestling game plan. The other issue is Tom Aspinall's gas tank. We'd be foolish not to mention Tom Aspinall's lack of what we've seen from him as far as going deep in fights. And is that his fault? No. Could he have gone 3 rounds or 5 rounds for that matter? We have no idea. We've never seen him go that long. And the reason that's happening is because he's finishing opponents, and he's finishing them early and doing so in dramatic fashion. So I haven't made a play on this fight yet. And conventional wisdom, folks who've watched the tape, they see a power wrestler, somebody who has a great chin, somebody who has a great gas tank in Curtis Blaydes. So they want to back them and also question why Curtis Blaydes is the underdog here. And I'll tell you why. I believe that Tom Aspinall is a very dangerous fighter. And until we know what he looks like in a third, fourth, or fifth round, then the jury will always be out on Aspinall. He's left some stones to be unturned. And that's the mystery of Tom Aspinall and what has made him who he is, and also what makes him hard to plan for. So Curtis Blaydes will likely try to close distance here and look for a takedown. And I see Aspinall ending up catching Blaydes and putting him out. That's the way I see this fight happening. I'll be picking Tom Aspinall to win and win so inside the distance. Should be a fantastic fight. It would not surprise me one bit, though, if Blaydes is able to ground Aspinall and grind him out and drain him. So very interesting fight. I want to thank everybody for tuning in this morning. Remember to go get what's yours. We've got a 12 o'clock start on the East Coast. Cheers to everybody who's attending the bout and the fight card in London. Should be a great 14 fights. So pick your spots. Go get what's yours. And remember, third-party tracked. My plays are up at MMA Oddsbreaker Premium, tracked at betmma.tips. Be wary of who you take your advice from. You want to make sure that you're listening to proven long-term winners. And there are folks out there who are long-term losers who are influencing a lot of the action here. So just be wary, do your own research, and make sure that you go get what's yours. So take your time, well-developed winning process, work on that, and let's kick some ass today, my friends. Go get what's yours.